Hi guys, welcome to my fourth reading review video of this week. Today I'm going to be reviewing Heaven by Mieko Kawakami. Mieko Kawakami is a well-known Japanese writer and poet, and she's best known for her novel Breasts and Eggs that won an award in Japan. But Heaven was her first full-length novel release that won awards in Japan and internationally. This book is primarily a literary novel, but that term is too broad to describe this book. Heaven dives into common subgenres like psychological fiction and coming-of-age stories while exploring themes like friendship, bullying, depression, and more. Psychological fictions focus on the characters' inner lives and mental states, while coming-of-age stories focus on the protagonist's journey from childhood innocence to adult maturity. The target audience for Heaven is a more mature, young adult kind of audience because of the deep concepts explored by the middle school protagonists. Some of the key audience demographics for this book are readers who are interested in contemporary literature, social issues, and philosophy enthusiasts. Most of the readers of Heaven say they've had similar experiences or can relate to some of the themes in this book, which is why this book got so much attention and hit the specific demographic it got. Most of the readers of Heaven say they've had similar experiences or can relate to some of the themes in this book, which is why the book got so much attention and hit the specific demographic it wanted. Heaven is a book about a 14-year-old boy who constantly gets bullied at school. He becomes friends with this girl who experiences the same kind of bullying, and they become friends. The book shows their experience as friends and how they grow together, but it also shows how the protagonist goes through so much violence and how he struggles with depression and his mental health. It's a very dark and philosophical book that has so many layers to it, and I'd say that unsettling is probably the perfect word to describe this book. There isn't any specific way this novel is structured, just because of how short it is, but I do think that this book has an amazing way of pacing everything. Even though it's a little less than 200 pages, Mieko Kawakami has an amazing way of storytelling and getting her point across. There's more detail and it goes more into depth than what I would have expected from a short novel. The pacing doesn't feel too rushed or too slow at any point in the book, which was really nice because I finished this book pretty quickly. I think because of the fact that this is a coming-of-age story, the novel was made a bit shorter than a regular book, but with all the different themes and concepts, there was more depth and beautiful pacing throughout this book. Going into this book with my research, I was expecting a touching novel about friendship and going through rough experiences together. I was pretty close to my expectations since that's pretty much what happens throughout the book, but I didn't expect to read more ideas like struggling with depression and loneliness, as well as grief and how to handle it. I was pleasantly surprised though because of how enjoyable it was to read, and I feel like it definitely wouldn't have been the same without those concepts. I'd give this book a 4.8 out of 5 on the 5-star rating scale. This was such a touching story, and it really made me think about human life and the complexities around it. I love how the protagonists are portrayed, just because Mieko Kawakami does such a good job at depicting young people and how they think and act. From this book, I learned about how others think and reflect on the same situation as you do. For example, during the book, the main character has a conversation with one of his bullies, and he comes to realize that his bullies think about his bullying in an entire different way than he does. It made me think the entire time it was happening, and it was probably my favorite part of the story. For my final touches, again, they'll be on this side right here. For plot, I gave it a 8 out of 10. I like the idea of finding a friend and bonding over anything and everything, except for the one thing that you do have in common with each other. They try their best to not talk about their bullying experiences at school so they can focus and think about the other positives of life that they can have with each other. Writing and vocabulary used, I gave it a 9 out of 10. The writing was so beautiful, and I loved how well it portrayed how teenagers think in their minds. There are just some stunning quotes and excerpts in this book, and reading it was such a pleasure on my end. For detail, I gave it a 10 out of 10. This book is about how the main character gets relentlessly bullied, and with the amount of detail in this book, I was so on edge reading it the entire time. It was so detailed, and it really made me think about how common bullying was and how there's usually no one to really stop it. The main character was so helpless during these encounters, and it was written in such a gut-wrenching way that sometimes I just take a break from reading because it was a little bit too much. But in another way, it was such a beautifully disturbing kind of experience. For characters and development, I gave it a 10 out of 10. I already talked about how well the characters are written, but it is just so amazing to not continue to talk about it. Both characters in this book experience bullying and a lot of loneliness. We were only in the boy's perspective the entire time, And when he'd describe how he'd been feeling a certain way, at times it was just so impactful knowing that this is someone's reality out there in the world, and it's just so disgusting. For our other main character, Kojima, she was so giddy and excited when the main character agreed to be friends with her, and it was so obvious that she'd never had a friend like that before. Kojima also goes through a lot of personal things that we only know through her conversations with the main character. Even then, hearing her talk about like family problems and mental issues, it's just really deep and sad. Mieko Kawakami really wrote these characters amazingly, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. For the ending, I gave it a 7 out of 10. The ending is one of those kinds of endings that's kind of up for interpretation, and sometimes I personally just do not enjoy those kinds of endings, but there was a little bit of closure, so I was still kind of happy with the little closure we got. It wasn't super satisfying, but it was not bad in any way at all. The ending was still super good, and I still really enjoyed reading it. My favorite part of the final touches, the quotes. This quote is from Kojima, and she is talking about one of the paintings that they're seeing in a museum that she renamed Heaven because she didn't like the name of the painting. She says, "Something really painful happened to them. Something really, really sad. But know what? They made it through. That's why they can live in perfect harmony." I really, really enjoyed that quote just because it's so deep and meaningful to her, and having her shared that with our main character is something so beautiful in a way. She's never had anyone else to show this, she's never had anyone else to talk about it to, and the quote is just kind of really lovely in a way, and I really, really loved it. For my overall rating of this book, I gave it a 10 out of 10 or a 5 out of 5. Amazing is such an understatement to describe this book, and I really wish I had a better word for it. I would 100 times over again recommend this book to everybody. It left me speechless once I finished it, and I now still have no words to describe how beautiful it was. I really, really love this book. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for staying around until the end. I hope that maybe some of these reviews are getting you to read these books, but thank you again for staying, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow in my next review. Bye!